Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good! And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good! Okay, well, let's learn English together. And here we all are. Once more. Yes, people. Yes, folk. Yes. Well, if you can think of another synonym for people, then now is the time to add it. I can only think of one, and it's an informal one too. Peeps. And as you can hear, it's just a abbreviated form of the noun people. So, does it count as a separate synonym? Well, I don't know. I'll leave that one up to you. As we all know, there are lots of things in English which are subjective. You choose to use a full stop. I feel that the situation requires, no, demands an exclamation mark. Given that the rules regarding English punctuation aren't as strict as the rules regarding Hungarian punctuation, it's a much more fluid situation. In Hungarian, you have set rules, very strict rules about punctuation. And there's that word strict again. Do you all remember? Strict was the idea that the rules must be obeyed. The rules, the law, the regulations, the instructions. You have to do what they say. But as we've seen before, in English, the rules aren't so strict. The rules are more subjective. And nobody's going to have a heart attack if you put a full stop where they think an exclamation mark is required. For one thing, if you pay attention to the way that I communicate, I think you'll probably conclude that I am not your standard, boring, middle-of-the-road, dull, restrained, unemotional, reserved, self-controlled, moderate Englishman. For one thing, I'm Scottish. And for another, well, you lot know me. I'm not Colin Firth, am I?
Listen, boys. I've had a rather emotional day, so whatever your beef with Eggsy is, and I'm sure it's well-founded, I'd appreciate it enormously if you could just leave us in peace until I finish this lovely pint of Guinness.
You should get out of the way, Grandaddy. You'll get hurt and all.
He ain't joking. You should go.
Excuse me.
No, that's him. That's not me. With me, there's a lot more exclamation. All right, are you ready? Yes? Well then, in that case, what the blue-boned monkeys from the planet Bloomerang are we waiting for? There's another session of the Mega Revision Part 4, straining at the lead, champing at the bit. Let's set it free! All right, so yesterday we caught up with the present simple using the verb to be. Good. And now, today, we're going to have a brief look at using the present simple with other verbs, verbs which aren't the verb to be. All right, so what do we have to be careful with? Where are the danger zones here? Well, the main danger zone, the main area where we have to stay on our toes, the time where we have to keep our eyes peeled, is when we're using verbs in the present simple tense with the third person singular, isn't it? We all know that we use the present simple to talk about things which are true in general, things which don't change, things which happen all the time, or things which happen sometimes. I like computer games. The bank opens at 9 o'clock and closes at 4:30. Chief Mangasuta Buthelezi lives in South Africa. We do interesting things every weekend. It likes to sleep a lot. So, we know when we use the present simple. That's not the difficult part, is it? No. The area where we have to be careful, the time when we have to use caution, is when we're making sentences with the third person singular as the subject. If we're making a sentence where the subject is he, she, or it, then we remember that there is a spelling change in verbs in the present simple tense. Yes. And what happens with most verbs? What is the spelling change which we make with most verbs in the present simple when we're using the third person singular? Yes, that's right. With most verbs, we add s to the end of the infinitive when we're making a sentence with the third person singular as the subject. You drive a car, but she drives a bus. We sleep 8 hours a day, the dog sleeps 12 hours a day, and the cat sleeps 18 hours a day. So, as we can see, when we're using the third person singular, we have to add an s to the infinitive of the verb to make the correct form. All right, but there are a few places where we have to be careful, aren't there? Yes. Think about the following cases. What if the verb ends in s, or sh, or ch, or x? What about situations where the verb ends in a y? What if the verb ends in o? All right. Well, let's take those categories one at a time. If the verb ends in s, or sh, or ch, or x, then when we're making a sentence using the third person singular, we don't add s. That would make the verb impossible to pronounce. No. If the verb ends in s, or sh, or ch, or x, then we don't add s, we add es. So, with verbs like the verb to kiss, or to fish, or to approach, or the verb to fix, we know that when the subject is the third person singular, we add es, not s, to the end of the verb. I kiss my wife, she kisses me. I fish in the Danube, Peggy fishes in the lake. I approach the fence, the animal approaches the fence. I fix things, he fixes things. All right. Okay, so what else is difficult? Well, that's an exaggeration, isn't it? This isn't difficult. These are just a few spelling rules which we have to pay attention to. Now, where else do we have to be careful? Yes, there's more, isn't there? Yes, there are more spelling changes we need to pay attention to, as we know. So, what about verbs which end in y? Well, these verbs split into two groups. Verbs which end in consonant plus y and verbs which end in vowel plus y. All right. Now, we all remember which letters are vowels, don't we? Yes, of course. The vowels are the letters A, E, I, O, and U. Okay. Now, what about the consonants? Well, that's easy. To identify the consonants in the English alphabet, all we have to do is remove the vowels from the alphabet. The letters we have left, those are the consonants. So, take the vowels out of the alphabet, and what do we have left? Yes, those are the consonants. All of those exciting letters like B and C and G and J. All right, now back to the spelling. What changes do we make to the verb when it ends in vowel plus y? Well, if the verb ends in vowel plus y, like the verb to play, for example, we add s, just like we do with most verbs for the third person singular in the present simple. I play squash, she plays tennis. I enjoy my weekends, he enjoys his weekends. I stay with my parents, the dog also stays with my parents. All right, but what if the verb ends in consonant plus y? Well, in that case, we change the ending. We remove the y and add ies. I study at school, she studies at home. I try hard every day, he tries hard every day. I fry eggs for breakfast, my wife fries eggs for breakfast. All right, so what do we do with verbs which end in o? Well, when the subject is the third person singular and the verb ends in o, we don't add s, but once again we add es. So, we have to change do to does and go to goes when we're using those verbs in a present simple sentence with the third person singular. I go home after work, she goes to school every day. I do my work, he does his homework. All right, and is there anything else? Yes, there is, isn't there? And there's another group, isn't there? Yes, the group which don't pay attention to logic. The mad group, the irregular verbs. Verbs like the verb to have and the verb to be. As we've already seen, these verbs are irregular. They don't follow the same pattern as the other verbs. I am, you are, he, she, it is. We are, you are, they are. I have, you have, he, she, it has. We have, you have, they have. So those are irregular verbs, and the name tells us that they're not normal, they're not regular, they're irregular. All right, now what's next? Well, we have to think next about what happens when we want to make negative sentences or ask questions in the present simple, don't we? I mean, I know that we all know, but we need to check things. So, we know how to make negative sentences and ask questions using the verb to be in the present simple. Okay, and using that knowledge, we can also do the same using the verb to have, can't we? If we want to make a negative sentence in the present simple using the verb to have, then we know that we have to add the adverb not after the correct form of the verb. So, that gives us I have not, haven't. You have not, haven't. He, she, it has not, hasn't. We have not, haven't. You have not, haven't. They have not, haven't. All right, well, that was simple enough, wasn't it? Yes, just as we did with the irregular verb to be, when we want to make a negative sentence using the verb to have in the present simple tense, we follow it with the adverb not. Okay, but what about when we want to make a question using the verb to have? Well, what do we have to do to make questions in English? Yes, we have to swap the subject and verb around, don't we? Yes, so that means that instead of saying I have, we're going to ask a question using the form of have I. Have I got anything in my teeth? Have we got any bread? Have you got a nice flat? Have you got any money? Has he, she, it got a headache? Have they got a monkey? All right, but what about asking questions and making negatives with other verbs in the present simple tense? What do we do when we're not using the verb to be or the verb to have? What happens then? Yes, that's right. This is the time when we need an auxiliary verb to help us, isn't it? And what do we know about the word auxiliary? Yes, that's right. A synonym for auxiliary could be helping. We use this verb to help us ask questions and make negatives. It helps us to do this. So, when we're dealing with the present simple, which auxiliary verb do we use? Yes, that's right. In the present simple, when we want to ask questions or make negative sentences, we use the verb to do as an auxiliary verb. Okay, so how does that change things? Well, think about a normal positive sentence in the present simple. I work in a bank. Now, how are we going to change that sentence into a negative, for example? Well, all we have to do is use the auxiliary verb to do. So, how do we do that? Well, we have to add the auxiliary verb to the sentence. Okay, but where does it go? The auxiliary verb follows the subject. So that means that in the example sentence, we're going to follow the subject I with the correctly conjugated form of the verb to do, I do, and then, because we want to make a negative sentence, we have to add the adverb not to the end of do. I do not, or the abbreviated form, I don't. I work in a bank. I do not work in a bank. And that's it. Yes, well, it's very nearly it. It's time for us to go. Well, not quite time for us to go, but that time is approaching, like a train. Yes, so before the train gets here, there's just enough time for me to thank you all for being here. Thanks for being here, all of you. All right, now, what else is there? Well, nothing really, apart from the fact that it's time for us to part. Still, we all knew that that was coming, didn't we? Yes, it's the same every lesson. We get our 15 minutes and then we're off. And it's the same today. So, until tomorrow, you all know the drill. You all know where I'm going, don't you? Yes, that's right. I'm off home. There's a coffee waiting deep in the depths of the coffee maker. And as for you lot, well, cats, dogs, monkeys, parrots, llamas, gibbons. And if that's not enough, what about your chores? All right, remember to put some music on too. See you all tomorrow. See you later. www.mediaclick.hu. Bye!